So today I am going to do my October wrap up. I'm like super happy with the amount of books that I read this month and really happy with the books that I read. Like there were a few that I didn't really enjoy that much, but overall most of them were very interesting and I'm so excited to tell you about all the awesome books. So let's get started. So the first book that I read was The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. And I believe the next one or the second part to this duology is coming out soon, so that's why I really wanted to read this one. I think that one has like some of the similar characters from the previous one, but it's not like following right after this story. But basically this one, if you have not heard of this book, is about a spaceship that kind of helps make these portals in space that help different planets safely and quickly travel to different parts of the universe. And so it's basically about this whole collection of crew members. They're all different species. Some of them are humans. Some of them are humans from different cultures. And then a lot of them are just aliens. And I loved this book because of the different characters, and each kind of section you follow each character. And I was really, really intrigued by this book. I loved how they looked at certain things and certain cultural norms that we see as being very polite or even just being very normal, and then how different that is for somebody else. And it was very interesting. I loved how it looked at different cultures, different people, and how you all come together. I feel like the plot was not too important in this book. There's a consistent plot throughout the book, but the characters kind of take the forefront of this story. So if you're looking for more of a sci-fi that's plot driven, I don't think this is really a good one for you. But I definitely would suggest this one to anybody that's really looking for something different. I feel like this was just a really interesting read. I really enjoyed the ending actually, and I really loved all the characters. I fell in love with everybody, and I was invested in learning more. I kind of actually wish there was more into each individual species and their culture and everything, but I think in a way that would have been too much. So I like how Becky Chambers really wrote this book. I think it was really great, and I'm super excited to read the next one. So yeah, definitely a really great book to pick up. So the next book I listened to on Audible, and that was Bindi by Nnedi Okorafor. It's very short. I listened to it during a 2-hour drive. So yeah, it's just a very short sci-fi about this woman named Bindi who is going to study at this university and on a different planet. And she's the first of her, I believe, the first of her race to go on to study at this university. And she's very different from other people. She has very dark skin, and her people use this red clay for their hair and face, and it's a very important staple in their culture. I guess the story kind of takes place entirely on the ship after it is overtaken by a race of aliens who are looking to get revenge on humans. So it's about her trying to escape this horrible situation that she's in. And there were a lot of things that I liked. I feel like I liked where this book was trying to go, and I feel like that was very good, but I think the plot just didn't really go for me. A lot of the things especially towards the end, were unbelievable, and I can't really say too much about that because I don't want to spoil anything, but just a lot of things seemed very placed just for the purpose to move the plot, or just so we could have good conclusion to the story. And I don't know, I think that I will probably go on reading the second book, but for the first book I wasn't too happy. I don't know, I just felt honestly I felt like she probably could have accomplished more if the story was longer. In this sense, I don't think a short story really did this book justice, because it's a lot to accomplish in such a short story. You're not only trying to introduce a whole entire world, these different races, and then you're trying to have this relationship between captor and captee, and I think that takes a lot longer to develop than what was the time that was taken in this. I mean, if you really are a big sci-fi fan, I would definitely check it out. I think there's a lot of interesting things, and I think the world is very interesting, but I just think there was a lot of things that could have been improved and maybe would have been better off in a longer format. So the next book that I read was Hollywood Witch Hunter by Valerie Tejada, and this was just kind of like my Halloween pick for the month. I was expecting it to be somewhere along the lines of like Buffy, but this book really fell short for me. I don't know, like, I just don't think I was really the intended audience. So basically, the book is about a family of hunters that hunt these witches. And these witches were cursed. They have to kill a young, superficial girl in order for the witches to stay young and beautiful. And it obviously takes place in Hollywood, so the witches are targeting rich celebrities. I've watched a few reviews before actually checking this book out, and a lot of people said that it was like, you know, making fun of the whole Hollywood witch hunter-esque kind of world. But I didn't really get that feeling. It felt almost too serious. I wasn't really a big fan of the main character either. She just wasn't very interesting in my opinion. There was this weird, like, I guess, truths between the witches and hunters, which I didn't really understand. Like, they did a lot of, like, talking, and I didn't understand why the hunters didn't just spend most of their time killing the witches. But I don't know, like, it was just a weird plot to me. Though I did find it pretty interesting in the end. There's a pretty big cliffhanger that I was pretty surprised about. If I'm still interested to figure out what happens, by the time the second book comes out, I will probably read it just because I want to know what happens. But other than that, I wasn't really too particularly happy about this book. And the next book that I read was Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer. And this is the first book in the Southern Reach trilogy, and this was kind of also a little spooky kind of book for Halloween that I wanted to read. I don't know what I would describe this book. Like, I guess sci-fi horror maybe? It's definitely very mysterious. All you really get about this book is that there's this Area X that you don't really know too much about, but they always send these groups there to kind of investigate what's going on, what's happening with the environment. And this latest group has been sent. You don't know any of the people's names, but there's 4 females that are in this group, and then they go off to Area X and just crazy stuff happens. I was interested in this book a lot. Like, it definitely keeps you reading because you want to know what's going on, what is happening. It's definitely something that will keep you on your toes. It's a very quick read, I feel like. It was enjoyable. I actually really liked it. I really enjoyed his writing too. He knows how to make even the most mundane things seem very creepy, and he adds this mood to the story that really worked well, and I absolutely loved that. So I think I gave this 4 out of 5 stars on Goodreads. I really liked it. My only downfall is that I feel like this first book didn't feel like a finished, complete book. Like, if you're looking for some type of resolution in the first novel, don't expect it from Annihilation. There is very little resolved. I felt like I left the book with more questions than I had coming into the book, but I feel like that's kind of the vibe he's going for. So, and it definitely grabs your attention and hooks you to want to read the next book. But yeah, so I really do want to read the next one, though I've heard some kind of like mixed reviews about the next one because it doesn't really lead off right where the last book ended. So I'm kind of nervous to go into it because I'm afraid that I'm going to get really impatient if he doesn't start answering some of those questions within the second book. So I don't know. I feel like I'll probably get to that one soon because I really want to know what happens. But it was a really great book. Definitely if you're into like creepy, weird things. There's a lot of creepy stuff that happens, but it's in a very interesting way, I would say. So definitely check that one out. So the next book that I read was Labyrinth Loss by Zoraida Cordova. And this book was also another great Halloween pick. So this book follows a young girl whose whole family has magical powers, and she has just finally like released her powers, but she doesn't really want to have her powers, so she does the ceremony in the hopes that it will take away her powers forever, but it actually causes her whole entire family to vanish into another realm called Los Lagos, and she has to go and rescue them. So I really liked the idea of a character that didn't want their magic, but she's already kind of immersed in it and doesn't want to be a part of it, which was definitely an interesting take to the story. I also really enjoyed just learning about this underworld, I guess, called Los Lagos. One thing though I was really disappointed about were the characters in this story, definitely because a lot of people mentioned how diverse the cast was, and I was excited to kind of like read a book that's really diverse in that way. And there are those things in the book, but I feel the characters were kind of bland. I don't know. A lot of them just felt like they were there for the purpose of the plot, especially the three main characters. There's the main girl named Alex, her best friend Rishi, and I am blanking on the main male character's name right now. But yeah, there's those three main characters, and I liked the male character. I thought he was really interesting, very dynamic and cool. I was not a really big fan of the main character, Alex. Towards the end, I liked her a lot better, and I really disliked the character Rishi. She was a very flat character. We don't really know much about her through this book, and I feel like she only is in this book to serve one purpose, which I was not really a fan of. I don't know, maybe in the next books, we'll see more of her character, learn more about her background, which would be really interesting to see, but in this book, it was completely lacking. I don't even know. There's one major thing about Rishi that I could say, and that's basically all I know about this girl. And I was not really pleased with the ending. It felt very rushed and anticlimactic. Like, I was so much more engrossed in them traveling through this world, Los Lagos, meeting the different characters, and we get to the ending and it felt too rushed and too easy. So those are my main problems. I don't know if I'm really even going to read the next one. This one ended on a pretty predictable note. I mean, I could see that coming from a mile away. Though I'm still very interested in the male character. Let me figure out what his name is. Okay, yeah, figure out what the male character's name. His name is Nova. I was really, really intrigued with him, so I might continue this book and continue the series just to see where his storyline goes, but the rest of it just did not appeal to me, and I'm sadly disappointed because this book has been pretty hyped on BookTube, so yeah. I mean, I feel like it's definitely worth giving a try. You might really enjoy it. I just feel like it didn't really do much for me. And the final book, I kind of I'm cheating. I didn't really finish this book in October, but it was like November 2nd, so I'm just gonna talk about it now. So I'm also gonna be doing a review on this book later on, so I figured I'd just get this one out the way. And that is The Weight of Feathers by Anna Marie McLemore. And this book was pleasantly surprising. I really enjoyed this one. I got this book a while ago on Book Outlet, not really having too many expectations. I really didn't know much about it. I really liked the premise of the book. It's kind of like a retelling or modern version of Romeo and Juliet. You have two families, the Palomas and the Corbeaus. The Corbeaus? I think I'm pronouncing them right. And they kind of are these traveling acts. Palomas are, they do an act in the water where they act as mermaids and swim and everything. And then the corbeaux do like act kind of like, it's not tight roping, but it's they climb up trees and they have wings on. This book has also been compared to The Night Circus, and I feel like that's a really good comparison. It has that kind of same mystique and magical realism that The Night Circus has. And I really, really enjoyed this book. The two main characters are spectacular. It was just amazing. Like I said, I'm going to be doing a full review on this book, so I don't want to go too much in detail, but I'd highly suggest you pick this up if you are any kind of fan of Night Circus or want kind of like a Romeo and Juliet-esque kind of romance. I would highly suggest this book. So yeah, those are all the books I have read in the month of October, including the last one for like early November. I would love to hear what you guys read last month. Let me know if you read any of these books. I'm open to talking with you about them. And yeah, I hope you guys have a great week, and I will see you next time. Bye.